Hey, everybody. I want to welcome all of you back to Plone Conference 2020, the pandemic edition. I tell you what, I went to the very first Plone conference back in, oh boy, 2004, 2003. When was that? It was a long time ago. But I tell you what, I never imagined that I would be hosting and helping host the Plone conference. And here we are, virtual on Loudswarm. So I'm pretty excited. And I hope everyone's enjoying the experience. If you have any troubles with the platform, make sure you head over to the Loudswarm feedback channel or the help desk and give us all your awesome feedback, because we know Pythonistas and Plonistas are the best folks in the world for giving and building some of the best software we've ever seen. So again, I want to kick off today with a couple remarks. There is a pinned message in the hallway track about some sprints information and some other kind of logistical stuff. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing everyone at the Plone party on Thursday night. Make sure you hit that up. Apparently, I will be mixing up some kind of a blue cocktail concoction of some kind. I did get all of my provisions, so I should be ready to do that. But I want to thank all of you for joining us, no matter what your time zone, where you're at in the world. Make sure you interact with folks on Slack. Don't forget to ask questions over in the Slido. After each presenter's talk in the face-to-face, which is the link right below here, you may not see it in this one, but right below, there'll be a face-to-face link. If you want to actually go and kind of have that gather around the podium moment where you ask questions specific to the speaker, they will be available for you, and you get to see them face to face. So awesome speakers like Alex Clark right here, who's going to talk to us about State of Pillow. You can go and ask him all the questions you want afterward. Please bombard him with questions. I'm sure he'll love it. It's difficult being a speaker in these virtual times because we don't get to see our audience necessarily, but here we do at the end of the conference talks. So make sure you check that out. We'll see. Anything else I need to mention? I think we're looking pretty awesome for today. There's an awesome talk. I'm gonna do a little self promotion. There's a great talk at 9:55 on running Plone on AWS, given by yours truly. I was up late last night making sure that it gave you the most value, most bang for the buck. So I look forward to presenting that to everybody. But without further ado, I'm not going to beleaguer my time up here. I want you to get the people who you really want to hear, such as Mr. Clark, who's going to talk to us about the state of Pillow. Your project's everywhere, Alex. This is pretty awesome.
It really is.
So I'll go ahead and turn it over, and I'll let Kim and Alex take it away.
Thanks, Calvin. And what I'd like to add too is that Pillow is something that we all use when we run Plone, and there's a lot of other projects that use Pillow, and this is the man who put it together. Alex is also the organizer of the 2008 Plone conference, which was my inaugural Plone conference to attend in Washington, D.C. And as the president and co-founder of AClarkNet LLC, he's been a developer on Zope and Plone and Python for a long time, and he's also the executive director of DC Python, which was the organization that promotes and supports the use of Python in DC, and was the organizer of the DC conference. So with that, I introduce you, Alex Clark, longtime Plonista.
Thank you both for that awesome introduction. Welcome to the State of Pillow talk at Plone Conference 2020, located online in fabulous virtual reality. Not quite, but maybe someday. It's really cool to be here. I'm a little disoriented because of Loudswarm, but I'll get it. So here we go. This tweet from the Plone Conference Twitter account is why I'm here today. This very tweet and my undying love for Plone and the Plone community. It was made from the Plone Conference Twitter account, but I believe it was written by Erico, Andre, and if not, here's a nice picture of Erico. It says the community misses me, and I miss the Plone community too. It's good to be back. I haven't done much Plone development or integration since Plone 4 days, and I'm very curious about the present day Plone. So thank you, Erico and Plone community for having me back, and thank you, Plone, for existing, because without Plone, there would be no Pillow. I'll say it again, Pillow would not exist if not for Plone. So thank you, Plone, for existing so we can all have a nice Python imaging library. Back to Twitter. Of course, my response was, oh no, I have to do work. Preparing for a talk is a lot of work, a crazy lot of work. But I did it and here we are. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed as much as I have enjoyed creating Pillow and watching it grow up. Hello, I'm Alex Clark, officially, creator of Python Pillow. And I was also at Plone Conference 2008 with these folks. Good times. So Pillow is the friendly pill fork. Originally stylized as friendly in quotes, now just plain friendly. I included friendly in the description because I wanted to convey a collaborative goal. That, and I really didn't want to annoy Friedrich, the author, or at least I wanted to annoy him as little as possible. PIL is the Python imaging library by Friedrich Lund and contributors. Thank you, Friedrich and contributors. PIL has its own Wikipedia page, which is nice, and over the years, various references to Pillow have been added, which is also very nice. Before we get to the state of Pillow, I have to tell you the story of Pillow. I wrote a blog entry once called The Story of Pillow, but I couldn't find it, so I'll have to try to remember. Pillow began in 2010 with an email I sent to the ImageSig mailing list. Anyone remember this email? Here it is. This is the email I sent to the ImageSig mailing list to announce the release of Pillow 1.0 in 2010. I recommend that you read the full thread. It spans 2 months from late July through August, early August 2010, and contains a lot of interesting comments. I always enjoy looking through these threads, which is why you're seeing them here. My announcement was sent at the end of July 2010. So the link is at the bottom of the July 2010 threaded view. Most replies came in early August, so the links are at the top of the August 2010 threaded view, including Friedrich's reply, which came on August 1st, 2010. Here it is. I love this sentence in particular. Why do I love this sentence? At least a packaging fork means that someone's over there is producing something more than invectives, but I'd still prefer a patch. That's Friedrich on Pillow when it came out in 2010. Why do I like this quote? It provides validation of some kind, but also invectives. I had to look that one up. Turns out it's insulting or abusive language, not good. That was Friedrich's direct reply to me, but he responded earlier in the thread to someone else. And he said, if you had been paying attention, you notice that Python standards change all the time, depending on what the latest bosses think. And then something about PEP 8, very interesting. I haven't looked up PEP 8 yet, but now we're getting somewhere. But to explain how we got there, we need to go back even further. We need to take it all the way back to February of 1991. Who knows what happened in February of 1991? Python was born. Guido posted it to Usenet. It was actually born in the late 80s, but published in 1991. You can still download Python, not 090, but 091, from a section of python.org called Ancient Releases. Ancient Releases, a long time ago. So what happened next during these ancient times? Who knows what happened in June of 1995? PIL was born. Python Imaging Library, 1995. I don't know the details of that birth, but we do know that Friedrich celebrated PIL's 10-year anniversary in 2005. How do we know this? We know this thanks to Eric Sorus's arbitrary milestone issue, one of my favorite aspects of the Pillow project, the arbitrary milestones issue. I'll get to that later, a bit of foreshadowing for you. All right, here's one for everyone. Who knows what this is? Windows, yes. Anything about it that makes it a particular Windows? The thing on the right. It's Windows 98. Also in 1998, Zope, the world's first object publishing system, was open sourced by Zope Corporation. And version 1 was released to the public. Who knows what happened 1 year after that? A year after that, it was 1999, and something else important happened in 1999. Here's a hint. That's right, Zope version 2 was released in 1999. What we all now know is Zope 2 was released. Now we're running out of century. Next up, Y2K. The year 2000. Remember Conan's year 2000? Who knows what important thing relevant to this story happened in the year 2000? This is a tough one. And I did turn off my phone. Sorry about that. Python 2.0 was released, and in Python 2.0 was the dist-utils. Distribution utilities. This is how we installed software, Python software in Y2K in the year 2000. Python setup.py install. Dist-utils made that work, and by work, I mean made it importable. No pip, no easy install, just Python. And it still works. This is Friedrich's PIL 1.1.7 on Catalina's Python 2.7. Still works. In 2001, A Star is Born. If we were all in a room, everyone would be going, ah! Look at Plone.org in 2001, before the logo even. Plone.org, 2001. Here it is in 2020, we've come a long way. Although I haven't come anywhere since Plone 4, as I said, so I'm looking forward to running 5, running 6, running Zope on Python 3, all that. Now it's 2001 and we need to get all the way back to 2010. So at random, because I couldn't find any culturally significant milestone to correspond with the next year of interests, another star is born. Actually, it's a dwarf planet called Eris. You can go look this up. Kind of interesting. The dwarf planet was discovered in 2005 along with build out internal. Build out was created internally at Zope Corporation to replace, of all things, make, my favorite, one of my favorites still today. Make files gave way to any style configuration files. In 2006, I attended Plone Conference 2006. Who was there? That was my first Plone Conference. Also in 2006, Setup Tools was born, and what we now know as Build Out was released to the public. ZC.buildout. Anyone think we should fork that to just build out or rename it? I don't know. All right, so the distutils happened in the year 2000. Provided support for building and installing additional modules into a Python installation. New modules may be either 100% pure Python or may be extension modules written in C, or maybe collections of Python packages, which include modules coded in both Python and C. So there it is. Distutils brought the C compilation in 2000. Also, the setup tools happened in 2000. Setup tools is a fully featured, actively maintained, and stable library. Pardon me for 1 second. Designed to facilitate packaging Python projects. Build out is a tool for automating software assembly, just like Make. Build out happened in 2006. Remember I asked, how did we get here? How did we get to the birth of Pillow in 2010? Issues. We got there because of issues. Python and Pill were created in 91 and 95 respectively. The distutils was added to Python Core in 2000 and Python 2.0, and Pill, rightfully so, used the distutils. It was born in 95, 5 years before distutils. Plone was built outable as of 3.2 Alpha 1 in 2008. Anybody remember Weikert in those days? Build out requires setup tools. Jim Fulton built build out on top of setup tools. Pill was not setup tools compatible. It still is not setup tools compatible. So there were even more issues at the time as a result. Installation issues, maybe it installed, maybe it didn't. Runtime issues, maybe it ran, maybe it didn't. Maybe you could import something. And then just, you know, as we're all familiar with, the human issues that result from this type of situation. people were fighting about import image. That was the situation in 2010. Pill was first, we'll give them that. Zope had an import image in OFS. You know, what can you do? Standards change. That's what you do. You change with the standards or you don't. But they did change, and Pill didn't change. So as I'm looking back on all this, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion. And I started picturing a four-way intersection, and I found this image, and I flipped the cars around so they were all headed toward each other. Then I wrote the names of all the significant players on top of the cars. Again, flip the cars around, they're all headed towards each other. So they all met, and there was a big collision, and my head exploded. Why did my head explode? Well, this little configuration did not work because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which was to use Pill in a build out, because build out is setup tools. But I really just wanted this to work. And it did. Worse, not only that, but this started happening. Third-party repackagings of Pill. Whew. So maybe this worked. Yeah, here's one of these third-party packagings in use. It's a workaround. I wrote a Plone book, and it was published, perhaps not coincidentally, in July of 2010. I included that little configuration technique in the book. I had to explain Pill Watkey to people, as I like to call it, Pill without TK. I had to explain the pill problem. Referring to the pill as a problem is probably an invective. So, guilty. My apologies to Friedrich. I mentioned pip in the book, but I'm not entirely sure why. I guess I was thinking, you know, global environments, you can use pip. I hated this situation. I'm using the word hate to describe how I felt about the pill problem, much like Melvin Udall in 1997's As Good as It Gets. Hate, 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 hate. The situation, not Pill or Friedrich, just situation. So back to this, maybe this worked. It did. I put it in my book, importing setup from setup tools instead of dist utils, and repackaging did work. It worked in part because 1.16 was the latest release on PyPy and still is the latest release on PyPy. They actually gave us Pill as of this year. No one could get in touch with Friedrich, so the packaging authority has given us Pill. We may use it. We don't know yet. So with find links, we could add a third-party distribution link with newer version 1.1.7 to the build out. And with no pill version specified in the PyPy index, pill 1.1.7 is installed. Unless newest equals false. Just kidding. Maybe that didn't matter, but things could still go wrong with this workaround. At this point, I wanted things to not go wrong, to be less ambiguous. Using third-party distributions was okay, but I wanted something better. Again, as I look back now, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion with Python, pill, zope, distutils, setup tools, build out, all colliding. And my head exploding. Then one day I had enough. I took a popular third-party repackaging and uploaded it to PyPy as Pillow 1.0. There it is. It's still there. It's still on dist plone.org, only served by HTTPS. Created by Chris McDonough and Hanno Schlicting. Possibly the only difference was importing from setup tools and also find packages. Got rid of all the import issues. While I was preparing this, I realized I forgot to credit Chris and credited Hanno plenty. So I immediately tweeted an apology and created a pull request. Pull request accepted. So I hated the status quo so much, I decided to take it a step further. There was at least one patch sent by Lawrence here after Pillow 1.0 was released, describing in detail the various import issues, resolving the issues by using setup tools. But at that point, I didn't care that much. It wasn't too late, excuse me, for Friedrich. He could have accepted the patch, but that never happened. So lesson learned, use setup tools. Unless there's something wrong with setup tools and you want to fork it into distribute, but that's another talk. So with Pillow 1.0, I got the build out of my dreams. This worked. And this worked. I wept tears of joy at that build out working. All right, so making good time here. Now we can finally get to the state of Pillow. That was a long story of Pillow, but I think it was worth it. It was awesome for me to be able to write it all down in one place. So a couple years in, nobody's really paying attention. we're doing setup.py fixes. We're adding file system paths. We're maybe fixing a bug here or there. We were a packaging fork. So like I said, we added file system paths to setup.py, we made other small changes, and then we tracked with upstream Pill. We tried to report bugs or keep track in some way for about 2 years. Then a guy named Brian Crowell, aka Flugo, came out of nowhere and added support for Python 3. Which seemed like a good idea at the time because this was when there was the 2 columns, and these were Python 2 and these weren't Python 3 yet. I can't remember what it was called. So I don't know if he needed this for something. I don't remember the details. I just remember there were half a dozen contributors besides me at this point. And he was one of them. And Python 3 support came in 2 pull requests in early 2013, and we were trying to get ready for the PyCon, which I wasn't attending, but we were, for some reason, going to finish this and announce it at PyCon 2013. So this felt really good. This felt like we were doing something. I wasn't doing anything, but Brian Crowell was doing something. So Pillow 2.0 with support for Python 3 was released on March 15th, 2013. Now things started to get really exciting. I actually love this little blurb about the support. The versions, which versions supported which Pythons. So we carried on doing this, rolling through Python versions, rolling through deprecated Pythons. Python 3 support was big. I think that's when people noticed. I think people started using it. Certainly Plone people started using it. Some didn't, but some did at the time in 2010. And there was the feeling that it was never going to happen in Pill, and it had to happen somewhere. So thank you, Brian Crowell, aka Flugo. Probably when Linux distributions started using Pillow. Cool, exciting stuff. In 2014, something really important happened, and that is we got a logo. Again, out of nowhere, Alistair Houghton declared Pillow should have a logo, and I said, yes, it should. So thank you, Alistair. We got stickers too. I don't know if you can see that. But it's COVID and I can't give them to anyone, but someday. We did ask Python if we could do this. They said yes. It is awesome. It is very beautiful, I think. So I love the Pillow logo. One of my favorite aspects of the project. Little things like, arbitrary milestone issue and the hasn't worked in 20 years GitHub label are some of my favorite things about the project. So that's 2 big milestones. Perhaps they inspired Eric Sorus, aka Wired Fool, to create the arbitrary milestones issue, which I'll now cover. Like I said, I don't know, I love this issue. He's counting stars, GitHub stars here, but we've since used this issue to keep track of many other milestones, including Hugo VK wishing both Pillow and Pill a happy birthday. Now, 2 years later, another big milestone. Introduced by Eric Soros, I believe, and that is release notes, something you'd think we'd already have, but no, we didn't have it. It's much more significant than it may sound, especially to me writing the talk. So these release notes were huge. So every release, we publish release notes. And because we have release notes, we can now cover the last 5 years in just a few slides, maybe a half a dozen slides. Here we have a summary of changes made from Pillow versions 2.7 through 3.1. JPEG and zlib required by default seems like a good move. Here's 3.11 through 3.3. And that setup.py change looks interesting because I'm a packaging guy. Thanks to release notes, we can see that in version 3.3.0, we added some options to help untangle the spaghetti code of file system paths used to build extensions. So common themes throughout are deprecations, bug fixes, and security bug fixes. Lots of security bug fixes. Emails from Google, emails from Atlassian about security. Everyone is we're getting a significant volume of reports, excuse me, and Eric is fixing them. By writing C or debugging C. Also API changes. Here's 6.1 through 7. Also API changes, security, deprecation. Again, many CVEs addressed. I was going to put together a list, but I didn't get to it. So if you want to look them up, it's probably easy to find. And to me, in addition to Python 3 support, that's where the value is. This is what people care about. So let's talk briefly, about 10 minutes, about the release schedule. Written down in the release notes is Pillow is released quarterly on January 2nd, April 1st, July 1st, and October 15th. Now, Hugo VK changed October 1st to the 15th to be just after Python, I think, something to do with Python's release cycle. And I had been doing quarterly since very early on. I can't remember why, I just thought quarterly was good. I think I began in 2013 or so. In 2018, we really nailed it. This is the entire 2018, and there were no brown bag releases or any kind of follow-ups to the 4 quarterly releases. A perfect year. All right, here we go. Last 10 minutes. So late 2018, I get an email from Tidelift about funding Pillow. To me, this was like a record deal. This was like, we're going to give you a record deal to create an album. Okay. So I talked to these folks and they were awesome, surprisingly so. And I talked to the Pillow team, core developers, and I pitched splitting the revenue. Splitting the revenue evenly, which to me seemed to be the easiest way to get it done without having to discuss anything or argue about anything. So We split the revenue evenly, and we're still going. I just got confirmation in 2021. We split between 400 and 600 a month, depending on how many subscriptions TideLift has sold, and they must have an algorithm or something. But this amount changes, and it's a lot of money. I mean, I'm even splitting between 4 people. It's not a full-time job, but their goal is to make it one, and so that's my goal too. If that was 14,000, 145,000, there's no limit to the amount that they can sell to make this people's full-time job. It just, I don't know. I mean, I can't say for sure that it'll happen with Pillow. I can say that that's what I would like to see happen in my lifetime, and it should happen in the world. And so that's TideLift's mission. So again, I wept tears of joy, but I couldn't do it alone. So let's take a look at contributors. Here are the lifters. People who get paid by TideLift are called lifters. I'm number 4 in terms of commits. Andrew Murray took over recently for Wired, or Eric, who was number 1 for a long time. So Andrew Murray and Hugo VK have done most of the work since we become lifters. And you can see their timelines. Eric does the security, and I'm the boss of Pillow. I have threatened to debug some C, but probably nobody wants me to do this. I will at some point do what he does, run val grind or whatever it is, but not today. Here we have Ham, Christoph, Nulano, and Joe, I think. So we're getting down the contributor list from GitHub, and Ham is next up, and he was a lifter for a year. He did a lot of Pillow performance testing, and I think he released something called Pillow SIMD. And then he's still on the core team, but he wasn't, wasn't a ringer like Hugo and Andrew. So he dropped off of TideLift after a year, and he's still a core committer, and he still commits. But the 4 of us now split the TideLift, and he could come back. I asked him if he, since I wasn't seeing a lot of commits, wanted to drop off, and he said yes. So Christoph is the guy who makes all the Windows binaries for Python and other libraries. And early on, he was the one who made the eggs for Pillow. I think we started doing them ourselves, but very early on, thank you, Christoph, for making eggs. Then Nulano, who I asked to join the Pillow team and be a lifter, but I think either said nothing or said no. I think he said nothing. Did a lot of work with the wheels. I don't know specifically. And John did a lot of bug fixes and other stuff. I looked through the logs, but there wasn't anything, wasn't any general category of stuff that he did. So there's Brian doing Python 3. There's the logo guy, Alistair, and the 2 other guys, my apologies, I don't recall what they did. And then I'm not sure what these folks did as we get down the list of contributors. So it's a lot of contributors. So many contributors and users, thank you. What can I say? Between Pill and Pillow, there's probably over 1,000 contributors. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Even one commit from somebody can be exciting to me. I remember Janice from the jazz band was the first commit after me. I didn't get that into a slide, but look it up. All right, so like I said, this tweet from PloneConf Twitter is why I'm here. That tweet was actually a reply to this tweet, which everyone's doing this meme, so I did it. Sometimes PyPy shows the logo and sometimes it doesn't. I think that's a warehouse bug. But in this case, there's the logo looking awesome. Probably one of my most popular tweets ever. We just released 8.01. The next quarterly release is January, and the state of Pillow is strong. I've told Tidelift, I just would like to see it continue, and I'm sure it will outlive me in some form. All right, thank you, Plone Conference 2020. I didn't join the Loud Swarm. I probably should be in the Loud Swarm, but I see that I ran 40 minutes, so mission accomplished. Some credits. My slide tools, the timeline CSS, and the Wayback Machine. I looked stuff up. And there's me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That was a lot of fun. Trip down memory lane, sometimes painful memories. That was really insightful. It's interesting to think about how often we've all used your software, and yet, to get a little bit more of a peek at what happened in the history behind it. That was great. I enjoyed it. So are anybody who has questions for Alex, please join him in the face-to-face, which is in the Loud Swarm window below the video. You should see the blue button for joining the face-to-face. I will also post the Jitsi link in the Slack channel, in the Track 1 Slack. But thank you very much, Alex, and I hope you'll hang around and watch a few more talks.
Yep, be right there. Thank you, folks.